Hey, this is Madeline Sklar.
And Suze Cooper, and you're listening to All Things Audio.
Some of you may have noticed in the last few weeks, Spaces has moved the navigation bar a little bit on mobile. You may be wondering what happened to the Spaces tab, the audio tab. Where did it go? Seems like there's been a lot of confusion, Suze, because people have been talking about it the last several weeks.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's still there along the lower bar, but certainly there's been some discussion. Andrea Conway tweeted just over a week ago now, talking about cleaning up the navigation bar and kind of simplifying that lower bar for us, because there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, when they introduced the audio tab and the Spaces tab into that lower bar, we did talk about how crowded it was down there, and it would appear that they're removing it from that general lower bar. What are your first thoughts on this, Madeline?
Yeah, well, I have Twitter Blue. And so if you have Twitter Blue, one of the cool features as a subscriber is you can customize your mobile navigation, that bottom bar. You have the ability to do that. So from the start with Twitter Blue, and I've been a Twitter Blue subscriber for like a year and a half because it's been available in the US for quite some time now. So I've been able to customize it, and I've had the audio tab in my main navigation. And with all of these newer changes and seeing them shifting it back over for most users, I'm able to control it. And so I can keep it where I want it. But it's interesting in this tweet, I have it over in the Nest, that Andrea Conway is saying that, yeah, if you're a Twitter Blue subscriber, you can put that tab in, but it sounds like a lot of users they've been talking to are not really utilizing the Spaces feature and don't want that as part of their main navigation. Do you find that interesting, Suze? I mean, here we think Spaces is so popular, everybody's using it, everybody wants it, but then when Twitter makes this change, they're like, well, as quoted in this tweet, the majority of people don't use Spaces like you or I might. Usage is too low to warrant such prominent placement.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that explains why it hasn't moved from my bar, because I've got Twitter Blue as well. So potentially I've got it so that it's there and on that lower navigation bar because it's selected that way. In terms of whether or not it's a good idea for it to disappear from the bar, I'm not sure. I mean, I think it was great to have it there because, I don't know, people kind of mistap and discover what it is and fall into Spaces without really understanding, that social audio's a thing and is going on, then it's almost its own discoverability tool, isn't it? Through kind of mistapping, which can be helpful, as we've said. Like, the discoverability on Spaces has never been great. So the potential for someone to accidentally jump into this world was there with it always on that lower bar. And perhaps you'll have less people discovering Spaces and what they are if it's not permanently down there for everybody. I guess that's one of my fears for it. On the other hand, I completely see what they're saying. And for anyone who is perhaps a power user and really into Spaces, perhaps we are the people that are signing up to Twitter Blue and will be able to choose what we have on our menus, and therefore for us it will stay there anyway. But yeah, I do kind of think that as that kind of stumble upon content moment, I think we might miss out somehow with that. I think we'll miss out in terms of people stumbling into what we're doing and what other hosts are doing here on Spaces, which is a shame.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, the good thing is still available. You just have to tap on your profile picture at the top to go to that left sidebar navigation. And according to the screenshot, it's in there with the top articles, with communities, with lists. So it is there. It's just not as easy to find, and which in turn makes that discoverability better when you're in the Twitter platform. However, there's always Spaces dashboard, which we're always talking about. No, they're not a sponsor, not an official sponsor. We just love this free website where we can easily discover different things going on in Spaces, whether it's upcoming, live, or just checking a replay. So big shout out to Andrew and his awesome site. We definitely recommend spacesdashboard.com.
And I can see that our speaker has joined us, Madeline.
Our speaker has arrived. We've got Gregarious from Zealous here with us. We didn't have an All Things Audio last week. We were both unavailable. So we've got 2 weeks worth of news to catch up on. And one thing that really caught our attention was your audiogram Friday that you did back on March 10th. I got the tweet in the nest. And you shared a lot of cool things that you have launched with Zealous. And we would just love for you to talk about it, share with us. I can put more tweets in the nest from this thread, but tell us what's going on, because if you're utilizing spaces, for all of our listeners, you're utilizing spaces, you're hosting, you should be using Zealous. So tell everybody a little bit about Zealous, what all you're doing, and then dive into these new features.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. The very short, easy summary of what Zealous does is we help you repurpose any of your live or recorded content. And we do that by blending both real-time interaction data from Spaces and soon other sources, as well as AI to find the best moments. And then we provide a platform that allows you to generate audiograms in any size or format for any platform at any length.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. So tell us about these new features you have available.
Yeah. So it is part of a journey. We are not done yet, but we just released. So previously, the earlier version of Zealous had 10 predefined templates. Basically, they were different layouts with a certain color palette applied to each. The big change, one of a number of changes we made, I guess, in the most recent push, is we changed a few things. So AI is great. We use AI for transcription, but it's not perfect. And so oftentimes what would happen is you would get some words that were like spelt weird, or maybe it was like repeated twice, not because maybe someone said a word twice, and so you couldn't edit the text. And so that obviously meant that a lot of people were like, well, I like the quote, but the words are wrong, so I'm not going to share it. So we added our very first pass at letting you edit the words that are presented in the audiogram itself. That was the first piece. The second piece was that when we render an audiogram, a variety of our templates have sort of an avatar for the user present in it. But if you'd selected some audio that had maybe 2 people speaking in it, what ended up happening was it just showed that one person's avatar. So we added dynamic switching for the avatar. So if you take a look at any of our examples, you'll see like there's someone speaking, but if like 2 people or 3 people are speaking, that avatar now changes as that person speaks. So it's lined up to know who's speaking at the right time. The next thing we did was we abstracted away the layouts. And so we gave you 10 new layouts that you can choose from. And so now you can choose from one of 10 different layouts. And then in addition, we launched 10 new themes. So now you have 10 by 10. That's 100. And then you have 3 formats. And so all of our stuff is available automatically. You don't have to choose ahead of time, like, I need to have a square one or whatever it may be. You can have the portrait, landscape, or square at any time. So essentially, just out of the box, 300 variations of audiogram templates that you can choose from. But in the paid plans, which is basically you can start using Zealous for free, but for $10, you get a whole bunch of other features. And at that $10 price point, you also have access to choosing your own colors now. And so you can customize those colors to choose like the appropriate, something that may be a little bit more on brand. So that was the push. It was a bunch of features. They were like, we've been working on these things behind the scenes. That was a couple of weeks ago. We have a couple more things coming out. So actually last week we shipped our new admin. And so if you haven't seen that yet, I didn't really talk about it yet because we have a session next week actually where we're going to walk folks through it if you want to see and learn about the new Zealous admin. But the new approach we're taking is sort of more like WordPress, where historically you kind of worked in the view side, like, the publish side of it, like where you were publishing your stuff. But we found that, folks were like, sometimes they don't want to publish it. Maybe they just want to have it private, et cetera. So the new Zealous actually has an admin now, kind of like the WordPress admin, where you manage your recordings and then you can choose to publish those recordings out to different channels if it makes sense for you. But the more important part about that new admin is it is the base, the foundation for a number of new features that are coming out. So I'll just give you a little bit of alpha for what's coming next week. It may be this week. I anticipate it'll be next week. But we have a brand new transcript editor, actually. And so the transcript editor actually just turns your entire transcript into like a Word doc, basically, kind of like Otter might. And you can just go in and delete things, hit line breaks, reassign speakers, all that stuff. So you can actually arrange your transcript in a way that is very logical and makes sense to read better. But also that new transcript brings with it some new features. For example, like you can now highlight specific sentences or paragraphs in there that you want to maybe feature for people to read. Those become parts of your highlight reel. But also, whenever you make a highlight, you can automatically turn what you highlighted into an audiogram. So you don't have to actually use our audio clipper, which we provide in the browser for finding the right words. You can actually highlight the words now and to instantly turn those into an audiogram or download the audio clip for the words that you've highlighted, et cetera. So a bunch of those features should be there next week. In addition, hopefully next week, we should have live the ability for you to save your own theme so that you can reuse that theme across audiograms that you choose to create, going forward. And then shortly after that will be your own templates. A little bit more complicated for us to get through, but not fully like customizable layouts, but personalizable where you can upload and change your branding, override all the colors, et cetera. So at that point, then you will be able to auto-publish with Zealous because you can say like, use this template to generate my top highlights and automatically share them, for example, out to my Twitter or my YouTube or whatever it may be.
Wow, you're really becoming like a one-stop shop then for everything live audio. Yeah, incredible. I mean, I'm really interested in the dynamic audiograms that kind of flick between the avatars and things. What's the feedback been so far? I mean, obviously it's not been out a lot, but a long time. But what's feedback so far?
It's been great. I mean, I think, look, we get it. It's just, it's hard with a small team to get all the things out. So, but, a lot of people, look, this is your brand. This is your personal brand, your business's brand. You want it to reflect you. And I think getting to those custom colors actually was the biggest unlock. A lot of folks were doing single user sort of quotes. So that wasn't that harmful, I guess, or, for their usage. But we do see that now, because you can highlight two people, et cetera, like it does improve some of that. We are working on a new set of templates, by the way, that will like have multiple speakers visible at the same time. Because we do know it's just a very common design pattern in the audiogram side of things where maybe you want to show that there's two people in that quote. And right now we only have a single avatar approach, but we're working on, we have several sets of new templates coming, some with multiple avatars in place, some with no avatars, like minimalistic ones, so that you can actually just set the background image or design and things like that. So yeah, quite a bit more to come on the audiogram front.
And I think what's so great about this is that, almost, I mean, I'm not saying creating content, whether it's pre-recorded, live, whatever, is easy. I'm definitely not saying that. But I think it's only half the work and maybe even just a quarter of the work. There's a whole heck of a lot of work in marketing and making sure people discover that content that you've put your heart and soul into creating. So what I like about Zealous is that it kind of takes that heavy lift and helps you to create those bits of content that you can then push out to let people know that you've made something brilliant. And, as I say, I really believe that's more than half the work of creating some of the content, is making sure people hear it.
I think it's like more than half even, right? Like it's easy for us usually to show up and chat, right? But if you start to multiply out the effort, okay, great, I want this on Twitter and I want this on TikTok and I want this one to be on YouTube and I want a full length version for my YouTube channel, but I want some shorts and reels and et cetera. Yeah, it gets really hairy. And, my experience being a creator getting to here is like really what informed the product, right? I just never made any of the repurposed content because I was just too busy. And so, as a part-time endeavor and running a startup, it just never got to the point where I was like, okay, I had all the tools, I had Otter, the script, StreamYard, et cetera. And I think I generated like 5, in over across 100 episodes, like 5 30-second clips.
Yeah, and it's not, an unusual story at all. It's, something I hear from creators an awful lot. Like they just want that process streamlined. And actually, once they put their heart and soul into creating the content and put that, banked that time for doing that, to find more time to push it out there and to create decent content that's going to catch people's attention and be the right clip and all of that, it's just a lot more time and effort to go into, isn't it? So
I forgot to mention one important feature. There is a ability for the host to give the 100 reaction live during the space, and it'll automatically highlight what was being said when they do it.
Oh, nice. So that sort of picks up on almost user-generated content in a way, doesn't it? It highlights the bit that caught someone's imagination. Nice.
Yeah. Now, you may want to adjust it. Obviously, there's delays with Twitter, and then, when you hit it versus when the words start, et cetera. So, but what it does is it at least gives you sort of the ability to kind of real-time bookmark interesting moments, so that when you do go in, your highlight reel is kind of pre-populated with things that at least you thought were relevant as you were hearing them, instead of having to remember, what was that? Who was saying it? Where was it? Etc.
Also, George is asking, will editing the transcript also edit the audio like Descript does?
It will not yet.
Okay.
We're looking at doing that. We know it is becoming more prominent. I think right now we're probably closer to Otter, right? Where you edit the transcript, but you don't actually edit the underlying media. But we know how to edit the underlying media. It just has a lot of implications, right? Because highlights, audiograms, clips, all the derivatives that come from it have to be sort of adjusted, and we have to figure out how we want to accommodate that everywhere else.
Gotcha. If our listeners want to check out Zealous, where should they go?
You can go over to zealous.one is where you can sign up. But if you want to learn more, zealous.app is our official website. It'll also link you over to where we sign up. I should mention, actually, just one last thing. We have a promotion just till the end of the month where we're not metering any of the usage. So, for example, we've had some podcasters come and sign up for our creator plan, but basically you can now provide us your RSS feed. We'll ingest it automatically, but we also then will transcribe all of your episodes. But it only lasts until the end of the month. So if you want to do it, but it's a really great bargain. If you've never actually transcribed any of your stuff, you can actually feed it to Zealous and we'll index all of it for you. We'll pull as much as we can find in the RSS feed as well. So
Zealous is ZEALOUS.ONE, zealous.one. So check it out, listeners, because this is a really cool tool. Well, thank you for spending time with us and breaking all this down. We were quite impressed with all the things you are adding to Zealous right now.
We appreciate it. Thanks so much. And there's a lot coming. I'll send you a note when the next big one comes up.
That would be great. And we'll probably have you back on again some other time just to, keep us, because you are making so many amazing changes and just making it better and better. And we sure love hearing about it. Appreciate it. Thanks so much, all. Well, we still got lots of news to zip through here. Still continuing with Twitter news. Andrea Conway, who we were discussing earlier, she's one of the Twitter employees, and I've been watching her tweets a lot, Suze, because she is always asking questions like, what do you think of this? She'll put up a screenshot. And so she did this screenshot saying, looking to improve account notifications. What else would you want to see here? And she's encouraging people to answer these questions. And I noticed she replies to pretty much everybody. She is listening for feedback. And what I thought was really interesting with this particular tweet she put out is, what kind of notifications would you want? And it shows some interesting options. Spaces host and Spaces speaker. What do you think of that? Like being able to get a pop-up notification in Twitter when you say, yes, I want to be notified when somebody's hosting a space, or I want to be notified when they're speaking. Like, I want to know when Suze Cooper is hosting. I want to know if she's speaking. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, did we not have this on the bell at one point where we could...
Briefly, but not everybody had it. Because what happened was, it was sometime last year. Well, first of all, let's back up for a moment. When I was a beta host 2 years ago, one of the first things Twitter asked me to do was to DM them a wish list. And one of the things I had very high on my list would be the ability to get this exact notification. Because what happens is, if you go to any profile, so I'm just going to go into your profile here, Suze, on my phone, and If I tap the bell icon, what I see right now is none, all tweets, only tweets with live video. I asked them to change, the only tweets with live video was back in the Periscope days. And we know that Periscope is no more, but we also know that Spaces is running on the old Periscope platform. So I said to them, and this was very high on my list of what I would love to have. I said, why don't y'all, imagine this is an easy fix, like change it so it would notify you, like I can, because I don't want to get all notification tweets of people. It's too much. I have enough going on. I don't need a pop-up notification every time people I follow tweet, or even if I just select certain people. I would love to know when a particular person that I specify is in Spaces Live. I would love that. So I requested this, and what was interesting is sometime last year, they were working on it, and some people had it, but it seemed to be brief. I never got it. I never saw that. But in these screenshots, it looks like they're taking another look at it, and they're actually expanding on it because it's showing like these options. Like I could say, okay, for Suze Cooper, I want to be notified of maybe just your quote tweets and when you're hosting Spaces. Like I can toggle to say, yes, I want that. That would be really cool. I think people would really utilize this feature if they had that ability to really hone into very specific things they want to see.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that list, co-host. So, people might want to get an alert when you're co-hosting in this space, Madeline. So, you're not the host of this space, but you're the co-host. So potentially Spaces co-host could be another toggle there.
That might be why they put Spaces speaker, though, because you have Spaces host. So that would be if you're hosting, but you host this, not me. I totally get it, but they would have to do the toggle below there where it says Spaces speaker. So that would just mean if I'm a speaker on anybody, whether I'm a co-host or just a speaker.
Oh, okay. I didn't read it that deeply. I just thought that meant, you've taken the mic and a speaker.
I'm assuming that's what it means.
Just because there's that different label within a space. You're either a host, a co-host, a speaker, or a listener. So I guess I'd kind of differentiated speaker and co-host as two different things. But you're right, that could be amalgamated under one. But would it be useful to have in there when someone schedules a space so that you can actually set a reminder as opposed to just being alerted when they're going live? Maybe that might be useful as well, because if you're alerted that they've scheduled the space, even if you're not going to be able to go to that space live, you can bookmark it and then go back and listen to the replay if they're recording it. Whereas if you've just got that kind of, I don't know, if I get a notification at 2 a.m. that someone's hosting a space that I want, then it's kind of been and gone, isn't it, by the morning? I don't know. Maybe it's just a different mentality around when you get that notification.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And, right now they're just looking at, what kind of interest do us users have towards this? And I'm really hoping that this is something we're going to see in the very near future. Interesting. I don't know if you noticed this, Suze. I noticed last week there were some spaces where people couldn't get speakers up. They'd see the request, they'd accept it, and the person couldn't speak the entire space. And then I saw this tweet from Morgan, along with Legion, talking about something with an Android update that made it so that you could not speak in spaces. So I pretty much figured it must have been just Android users, because it was very odd. I thought it was odd that some people could speak, but others couldn't. And the people that couldn't were racking their brains. Why can't I get up here? Why can't I get up here? They would close the app. They would restart the app. They would re-download. They would be trying different things during a space, yet they could not get in. So I haven't seen anything official from Twitter about this, but Legion was mentioning about this latest Android update. And then I got another tweet here where I had asked if this had been fixed, because this goes back to last week. Had you noticed any issues with this, Suze, that people were talking about?
Yeah, I'd seen people talking about it on the timeline. I haven't experienced it in a space, but I did see that it had been an issue for some people, yeah.
Yeah, because I'd been in spaces where that was happening. So, I just kind of threw a tweet out earlier today to that group to see, has this been fixed yet? Because I have not heard anything since last week. Morgan says, yes, in the beta version. But my thought is, okay, how many people use the beta version versus everybody else that just uses the regular version? So I don't know. I still trying to figure out what exactly is going on. But if you're an Android, Well, I would like to know if you're an Android, if you're listening to this right now, whether it's live or replay, if you're an Android user and you've been able to speak in Spaces since March the 15th or 14th, maybe it started on 14th, through now, which is March 22nd. If you've been able to without a problem and you're on Android, please send me a DM. I would like to try to investigate this a little bit more because I would like to know exactly what's going on, and then I can report back next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Do let us know. Let us know. So our next piece of news is from Andrew at Spaces Dashboard. He's talking about this categorizing by language and showing language leaderboards, which I think we actually chatted to Andrew about a few weeks ago, didn't we?
I believe so. I just love that they're expanding more with these options for language. I mean, look, being able to have more people utilizing this amazing website, spacesdashboard.com, I think just the more the better. And that will bring more people to our spaces when they're able to get that discoverability, which we know is lacking so much inside the app.
Right, let's move on and talk about Clubhouse. I'm aware we've got a whole ton of stuff here, Madeline. So perhaps we kind of zip through some of these here. The first one was a tweet from Morgan that was showing us some rather flashy screen grab here of clubbing over on Clubhouse. This is so clever. Did you play the video to this one, Madeline?
No, I mean, I saw the tweet. I didn't really play the video. The visual looks really interesting for sure. What are your thoughts on it?
So there's kind of one person, I'm guessing, that's hosting this, but they're using various different accounts and I'm guessing unmuting the mic at different times. The graphics are going in time with the music. I mean, it is just a complete tour de force of creativity for social audio. If ever there was a clubbing version of social audio, this is it. I urge you all to press on this screen share from Morgan and see exactly what it is that we're talking about here, because it's an experience and I think it's incredible. I can't wait to see more of stuff like that. I know when, we first had musicians performing over there and making real use of the different audio features they've got over on Clubhouse, that was incredible and really incredible to listen to. Particularly on headphones, a real sort of experience. And I think, this is another way of doing it, quite visual, but also really, really works with the audio and just a great way of utilising it and creating that sort of community feel and a clubbing space or clubbing room, I guess. But yeah.
It's very creative.
It is. It really is. Alessandro Palusi has been at it again and has been doing a bit of his reverse engineering. We have some tweets here talking about how Clubhouse is working on the ability to schedule multiple events. I know when that came to Twitter, we all did a massive cheer all together because that really does take some heavy lifting out of being a host if you can schedule more than one space or room at a time. So I'm sure that people who are using Clubhouse regularly are equally as happy at having that ability to do that. We're also seeing here on another one of his tweets, Clubhouse working on the ability to add a location to houses. I know we chatted through this one a few weeks ago about, the pros and cons of whether or not that's a great idea. So yeah, do go back through the All Things Audio archives. I think it's just a couple of episodes back and you'll hear us talking about what we thought about that, adding location to houses so that people can actually find out where you are in the world when you're right there on the Clubhouse app. The next bit of news is from Meta. This is the news that they are finally shelving the audio channels over on Facebook. I think channels were available for Facebook groups for a short time. I know they said they were going to go all in on audio. I think around this time last year, Facebook were all in on audio. Everything was about, how could they add audio in, all this stuff. Then we suddenly had a pull the carpet from under us moment sort of later in the year. And now it's come to the point that by the end of this month, those audio channels that were added to groups are going to be removed. And that's the very last part of their social audio push. So this article in Social Media Today that I shared in the tweet kind of goes into them shelving that and talks about them pulling that away. Spotify next, and Matt Navarra is reporting this piece on from The Verge that Spotify is going large on video podcasts. this is all around the new UI change that happened on Spotify, which I think actually happened the day we went live. So 2 weeks ago today, they just started to roll it out. And I've definitely heard differing views on it since then. It's supposed to be great for discoverability. It's offering a real sort of TikTok style preview of audio in there, including podcasts as well as music and audiobooks. Some people love it. Some people aren't so sure about it. I mean, Madeline, do you use Spotify? Have you got a view on it?
I really don't. I've never been a big fan of Spotify, so I just don't spend time over there. Is that bad to say?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think from my point of view, I use Spotify for music more than podcasts, particularly. I like the idea that this might appeal to a younger audience, and younger people might find podcasts that perhaps they hadn't thought of listening to before. On the other hand, I still think this whole need for podcasters to feel like they have to create video to be found doesn't sit well with me. You know, I feel like audio content has done quite well for itself up until now. There's a reason why we use audio, and we don't necessarily want to or need to use video. And I think with Spotify and YouTube, you know, YouTube being a video platform that's trying to get in on audio, and Spotify being an audio platform that's trying to tell you that it needs video, I think it confuses people in terms of they feel like they've got to have video, and that really isn't the case. You know, I could definitely sit here and wax lyrical for you on the pros of just creating audio content, but yeah, it's interesting to see Spotify go down that route and sort of switch allegiance in a way to the content medium that it's going to be focusing on most. Patreon followed this up with a tweet about joining forces with Spotify to make it easier for podcasters to monetize, basically. And, you know, anything that's going to support that idea, I think, is a good one. Being able to rely on, you know, those two big names that people will know as a partnership to have a go and try and do that, you know, is sure to encourage a lot of people and give people confidence to try it out. So another bit of news that will be good news for those who want to lean on Spotify in terms of their podcast and their audio content over there. Reddit, Madeline, we have covered Reddit a little bit. Morgan, who I can see here in the space, has most certainly been our Reddit correspondent for the past few months. I did hop over to Reddit Talks when it first launched. I spent a little while over there. I found it quite difficult to find anything that I was really that interested in, which was surprising because Reddit is a platform that should be full of stuff that, you know, you should be able to at least fall into something that you might be interested in. However, this tweet from Morgan has confirmed that Reddit Talks is no more. They are shutting it down. Hosting ends March 21st, so that's done. And downloads will end June the 1st. They've decided not to take it any further. So yeah, Reddit Talk is the latest social audio. They tried it. They decided not to continue with it.
They gave it a go. It's really showing that the two biggest players are Spaces and Clubhouse, which we figured was going to be how this would all play out. I thought some of these bigger companies like Meta and Reddit would stick around longer, but you know, it just obviously didn't make sense to them, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, potentially all of the you know, the shockwaves, the different upheavals that have gone on in the tech world over the last few months, the you know, repercussions of COVID, all of that kind of stuff, the layoffs that we've seen, you know, all of those teams being cut back. This was one of the newer things to be rolled out. So it feels like it's one of, you know, last out, the first to go almost. They just don't have the resources to put into it to continue it and push it forward. So actually at this point, if it really wasn't taking off, it's the thing that is going to disappear. And that's how it kind of feels, really. But yeah, a shame to see another one go. You know, as I say, I like all different flavours of social audio. I liked the fact that they were all trying it out. And I really don't think any of the other ones existed long enough to really find their feet and find where they fitted into this world. But equally, it's, it's definitely not over, as we started this episode saying, because I feel like there's just so much more still to come. Maybe even from these platforms who might just re-angle what they've been doing and take what they've learned from it and move on. So, yeah.
And we would love to hear from our listeners. If you have any questions, we would love from Morgan if you're available to come chat with us and talk more about these new things with Clubhouse and Reddit. So, Suze, while we're waiting on that, you want to talk about our this thing you did where you moved all things audio episodes across into a new podcast player at YouTube. It sounds super interesting.
Yeah, so the YouTube for podcasters features that we've discussed here and there over the last few months are finally being rolled out this week. And so at the beginning of the week, I got the email as a YouTube creator to say that if I've got a podcast, I can now upload it to its new podcast channel. All Things Audio has actually been on YouTube for quite a few months, actually, and I'd set it up there kind of in readiness for the podcasting stuff to kick in. Initially, it was all only available in the US. It was a very limited rollout. No one saw anything of it. There was a lot of talk about it, but not a lot of action. And then this week, all of a sudden, they seem to have actually started moving and pushing things through. It's still a little bit unclear about how it's all going to work and, how it might appear in different places. But basically, I took the All Things Audio playlist that I'd created, because that was one of the things that they'd suggested that you did if you were uploading a podcast, was to create it in its own playlist so that each episode is its own separate video. And that was actually being automated from Headliner to create an episode full-length episode video that was then being posted to YouTube each week as we went live on a Friday with our podcast edition. So essentially what I had to do was log back in to our channel, and they actually now have a dedicated tab that says podcast, and you can just click the plus. It's really intuitive. I could have uploaded a whole load of new episodes had I never have uploaded a podcast there before, or I could choose which videos I wanted to move across into this podcast playlist, which is what I did. I selected them all, pressed the button, and there they are. It doesn't look any different to me, but I'm guessing that in the back end that will start to do whatever it's going to do with podcasts. YouTube is saying you're going to get your own podcast analytics. There's going to be different monetization, which, is one of the reasons that podcasters have been so interested in being on YouTube, is that, the monetization model over there, once you're creating content that's over 10 minutes long, over half an hour long, over 60 minutes long, you've obviously got that ability to plug into their monetization system and use the ads. So, yeah, how that's going to play out in this podcast channel, I'm still not too sure. I mean, YouTube have said that podcasts will appear in YouTube Music. They will be on YouTube as the video platform as well, I would suggest. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going anywhere from there. But we'll wait and see. But yeah, we are there. We have our podcast playlist. I've been in touch with other podcasters who've said the same. Oh, well, that was a click of a button and quite easy, wasn't it? So let's just hope that from here on in it becomes kind of clearer and we get access to analytics and data that will really make it useful for us being over on the world's second largest search engine. So yeah, exciting stuff.
Now, if people want to learn more about all this new stuff happening at YouTube, is there like a place they can go? Is there like, some guides and info? What should people do?
Yeah, there are. And I did tweet it. But you know what? My tweet has disappeared from my timeline and I have no idea why. So in the next kind of minute or so, I will try and put something together and pull those links together. And in fact, I know where it is going to be. It's going to be in my new Substack this week, Stop, Rewind, Play. So what I might do is add a link to that if you'll allow me to. And then you can sign up and get all of the links in there when it comes out on Friday as well. Yeah.
Please do that. You go find all that. We've got some speakers here. I do want to mention that I just put in the nest, Morgan did confirm that with that whole Android issue in Spaces, it has been fixed in the production version, not just the beta version. So that's good to know. Let's start with Michael. Michael was here first up. Hey, Michael, how's it going?
Hello, friends. Good to see you all. And this has been interesting to listen to today. And I came up to the stage primarily to respond to what Suze had said earlier about, this big push for video. You got to add video to all these podcasts, and every podcast needs to be a video podcast. And I'm with Suze. Like, there is something to audio by itself, and something magical that you can do with that.
Bravo.
And I know George was
Agree.
going to agree with me.
Bravo.
But I want to produce certain podcasts, but I don't want to make a video podcast. I don't want to be on camera for these things.
Right.
Maybe I could show certain things on camera, but it wouldn't be me. And it's not a vanity thing. It's just, I know from having done video production, there's all the lighting and the things and angles, make sure the background looks good. And I don't want to fool with any of that.
And that's okay. And you know what? I think that's totally fine. Sometimes these platforms, they do a little bit of a pivot and it becomes like their big focus and they're going to give more attention to it. The algorithm favors it. Doesn't mean we all have to go jump and do it. We don't have to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm with you. I mean, yeah, video is cool. And I actually have some new live stream ideas with podcasting and stuff I might play around with. But for the most part, I think there's something so special about audio only podcasts. So I'm with you.
Okay, let me add something to what Michael said. In addition to what he said, audio is more intimate.
Yes,
it is more.
It absolutely is.
It is more intense. I did a lot of experiments in the 70s with face-to-face versus telephone conferencing versus video, and I can tell you, and basically cite the studies, that it is incredibly more intimate and intense. Video is kind of removed. So, I mean, we can go on for hours, but I just want to make that point.
That is a great point. Plus, audio is something you can just be doing on the go. Here's what's interesting. So I have the YouTube Premium because I hate the ads. I cannot stand those ads in YouTube. And I actually, in the past year or so, have used YouTube way more than I ever have before. But what I like to do is just listen. And I love that on my iPhone, I can have, there's like some live stream podcasts that I really like, but I don't have to look at the person talking because it's really like a podcast, but they want it to be a live stream on video. And so I can just have it on my phone, press the side of my iPhone so the screen's not even on, and I can just listen, put it in my pocket, listen while I'm walking my dog, listen while I'm driving, listen while I'm doing whatever. And I like that. And so I totally agree. There's something so special about audio. Morgan's next. Want to hear about all the Clubhouse stuff. So Michael, if you have anything to add, just jump in. So, hey, Morgan, how's it going?
Well, there's one thing which Michael witnessed just an hour ago, which was, we'll call it breaking news, but this is perhaps both the least exciting and the most exciting news of the week for us over there was Clubhouse redid all of their emoji. So if you like your emoji reacts, there's a whole new fresh batch of pretty fun and edgy ones, which includes, which is the source of our excitement, the 100 emoji is now on more than one platform. So it's the power of the 100 is spreading. There we go.
That's right. 100 on Clubhouse.
Yeah. That probably won't be the most exciting thing to happen
and
this month.
Spicy.
He's still my heart.
There's a hot chili pepper emoji too, and a hug emoji, which is that one's nice. What else? On the Spotify thing, I wanted to recommend, if I can just quickly pin this, it is a podcast episode on Decoder, which is one of the Verge's podcasts with Nilay Patel. He interviewed, I forget his name, but the co-head chap at Spotify. If you want to hear more about the thinking behind introducing this more video-focused TikTok-like feed, it's really excellent at explaining the kind of higher-level stuff about why this is important to Spotify as a company, and also how it might help the creators. Of course, he's out doing the talk at the moment because he needs to explain that. A lot of Twitter has been up in arms about this feed. But I'd recommend listening to that as a really good high-level view around the AI and the algorithm stuff. And there's a key phrase in there where he says, look, it's not just having a great algorithm. Everyone thinks that that's what TikTok has. It's having a kind of feed or a user interface that gives that algorithm glasses. So what this is supposed to do is helping Spotify get really strong signal about what it is that you are interested in and what it is that you're not interested in. And this is whole part of Spotify saying, look, we have to do more than just being the place you go to play the stuff. We really need to be great at discovery. And so this is what they're hoping this will do, whether or not we worry about the video aspect of it. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I just think from the creator's point of view, it feels like what they need to create to get seen is what they're going to think about prior to whether, because ultimately that algorithm, that discoverability mechanism is going to favor video because it's set up for visuals. So you've got to have something, and you don't want to look naff. And if you do look naff, it's not going to pick it up anyway. So there's that real kind of antagonism between, well, this is a platform where I should be able to distribute my audio, but it's favoring video content. Even in a preview, like 10-second clip of it, I've got to look somehow, anyway. And I need that to represent me in a good way so it picks up, so people can find me. I just think there's such a clash between those two things. I'll be really interested to take a look at the tweet that you've just popped there in the nest, Morgan. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's like, oh, do I have to put on my smart clothes and do my hair now? Is it there's even more work as a creator? Okay. One of the other interesting things in that is that he really stressed that the algorithm, so to speak, is not really looking at how to put this. It's looking at what you then go on to listen to long term. So something is considered to be a success if they've shown it to you there, and then you play it many times later in your life, basically. So it's not engineering for showing you stuff right now that you're going to engage with in the feed. That's TikTok's model. It's trying to get you to a point of satisfaction where you've actually discovered something you really like, and they can tell that you've really liked it because they're paying attention to what you do afterwards, not so much what you're doing in the moment on that feed.
And before we get to a few more speakers, we have Morgan. Thank you for checking back in the middle of this space. And I shared in the nest that the whole Android thing has been fixed with people speaking in spaces. Do we know what exactly happened? Why people on Android were not able to speak in spaces last week?
It seemed to have just been a bug that shipped that prevented. You could still host a space on Android, but you couldn't join as a speaker, I don't think. So I don't know. I didn't see a huge outcry on Twitter about it either. But it was more a case of, oh, fine, okay, look, I'm sure it'll be fixed in the next update. This is a bit of an inconvenience. And then, as you said, a lot of people who were trying to speak in spaces couldn't work out what the cause was. But it's really good that they fixed it quickly.
I think when the spaces I was in and people were not able to figure it out because when you're in the moment, everybody's not going, well, by the way, I'm on an Android. Is it working for you or not? And who's it working for on an iPhone? But it's interesting that there seemed to have been some kind of bug, and glad they got it fixed. And I didn't see really, you and Legion were the only ones I really saw talking about it that seemed to know that it was Android. So I really appreciate you both, noticing that and putting it out there, because it just seemed so odd last week when, just all these people just were frustrated not being able to join as speakers.
Yeah, well, it's really Legion, actually. He gave me the heads up. So Legion is really up on what's happening, not just in the production release, but in the other like beta and alpha tester versions of Twitter. So he flagged that, and also flagged that the fix was included in the beta, so we knew it was coming. So yeah, do follow Legion if you want to.
Absolutely. And I see Legion's here. Legion, thank you for all you do. We all appreciate you so much.
Cindy Lou, hello. I'm hoping you're going to talk to me about the location stuff on Clubhouse, because you've been clarifying it for us in the chat.
Yes, I definitely wanted to chime in on that. The location, you can literally put any location in to your app in your settings, and it will eventually, not right now because location is not yet added to houses, but when location is added to houses, it will show you, supposedly, houses in that location. So you're not actually giving your location to anything but the app. You're not giving it to other people. They can't see where you are. It's only the app itself that can do it. And you can put any location in the world in. It doesn't matter where you are currently located.
Yeah, I actually remember, I think when we spoke about this now you're saying it, I think Michael did clarify that for us when we spoke about it before. But yeah, it's a great reminder, isn't it? Because it's instantly you see about your location and you think, oh, everyone's going to know where I am. And, is that a good thing or not? I mean, as a regular Clubhouse host and user, Cindy Lou, what do you think about the location being added?
I'm loving it because as somebody who lives in New Zealand in a very rural area, it would be nice to know if there were other people here on the app who have decided to create a house. So I will definitely make sure that we have a house that has our location for like South Island of New Zealand. I also think that it's going to help people if they're going to go to a city to visit to be able to find out ahead of time what might be there. Think of in the future when this is even becomes more like Facebook, everybody's got to have an account. You would be able to, as a business, create a little house and have a place where people can find out what you're doing for business in a location.
Thank you to all of our speakers who came on and shared so much great stuff. And we're available in all of your favorite podcast apps. We're out there, All Things Audio. You can also go to allthingsaudiopodcast.com as well.
You certainly can. And you can catch us here on Twitter and use the hashtag AllThingsAudio, and we'll pick that up throughout the week. So that's it for this week. But thank you so much to everyone that's been here in the space with us and those of you listening. And we'll catch up with you next week.
Bye, everybody.